Open world. Two words that can either get you super excited or leave you completely disinterested. The Ubisoft formula has spread far and wide, turning most open world games into predictable, repetitive, and soulless experiences. Games that give you freedom but nothing to do with that freedom. Worlds that are massive and completely empty at the same time. And sometimes this isn't just the fault of modern game design decisions. Open world games are hard to make. They have a lot of moving parts that are hard to bring together in a way that really clicks for the player. But when it works, you could have a masterpiece on your hands. So it's no wonder that fans of the Wizarding World were losing their minds when an open world Harry Potter game was announced. Hogwarts Legacy had the entire weight of a world on its shoulders since the magical franchise had been dormant in the gaming ecosphere for almost 10 years. The game was released in 2023, and it seemed to be well received by most, but a passing political controversy involving J.K. Rowling, the author of the original Harry Potter novels, resulted in many biased reviews, calls for boycotting the game, and content creators being harassed live on stream just for playing the game. Thankfully, the fog has cleared, and I decided it was finally time to play Hogwarts Legacy and give it my 100% unbiased, 200% accurate review. Is it a magical game everybody wanted, or does it bite off a bit more than it can chew? Let's Revelio.
Revelio, 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 Revelio.
If you're a fan of Harry Potter, you are going to be hooked on Hogwarts Legacy from the moment you get to read your Hogwarts acceptance letter. You're going to carefully create your character, you're going to cry a little bit when you realize 15-year-olds can't grow facial hair, you're going to be dreaming of all the adventures you're about to embark on, and the second you're given the ability to move around, all you want is to be set free upon this beautiful world that has been created by Avalanche Software. No, not that one. But even after you've made your way through the intro and after hours spent checking off all sorts of quests and tasks and collectibles, something feels off. Something is dragging you down, preventing you from fully embracing the Hogwarts experience. This is perhaps the biggest issue with Hogwarts Legacy, and it will turn off a lot of people right from the start. Here's the thing, I've been playing video games of all shapes and sizes for more than 25 years now, which naturally gives me this ability to pick up a game I've never played before and instantly know how most of it works. Obviously, tutorials are still necessary to explain more game-specific mechanics and give less experienced players a helping hand before they get thrown out into the wilderness. Unfortunately, Hogwarts Legacy is very heavily geared not just towards these less experienced players, but towards people who have never played a single video game in their whole lives.
The people are retarded.
I spent the first 10 to 15 hours of the game trying to pinpoint the exact moment when the tutorial had finished, but even after beating the game, I'm not even sure the tutorial finished at all. Every single tiny feature or game mechanic in Hogwarts Legacy is thoroughly and repeatedly explained to you in multiple forms multiple times. The first dozen or so main quests are entirely dedicated to teaching you things that 90% of players would be able to figure out by themselves by just noticing things in the UI or by simple experimentation. But Hogwarts Legacy really wants to make sure that no Harry Potter fan is left behind. As a result, depending on how much you wander off the beaten path, the first 5 to 7 or maybe 10 hours of the game are a slog to get through, and it's very demotivating if you're a more seasoned player expecting to get straight into the action. Another side effect of this extreme approach to accessibility is that Hogwarts Legacy isn't a very challenging game. The combat can get a bit chaotic sometimes, but that's mostly due to the clunky spell switching mechanic. I died once in Hogwarts Legacy because the game is so easy My brain stopped being able to compute danger, and I subconsciously thought I could survive jumping off this massive cliff.
You're going to regret that.
But hey, I didn't install Hogwarts Legacy to be challenged. If I wanted to get kicked in the nuts, I would be playing Dark Souls 2. The unremovable training wheels are going to cost some points down the line, but here's the thing. I came here to drink butterbeer, break curfew, fly on a broom, fight dark wizards, find secret rooms, and learn the dark arts. The reality is that Hogwarts Legacy was never meant to be a full-on hardcore RPG. Hogwarts Legacy is a Harry Potter theme park. After you create your character and watch some introductory cutscenes, Hogwarts Legacy will immediately start showing off one of its strongest assets: the fantastic landscapes and set pieces. This game is absolutely beautiful, not just because of the quality of the graphics, but because of the insane level design and art direction skills that were injected into every square inch of this game. The world of Hogwarts Legacy is so detailed and carefully constructed no matter where you go and what you're doing. The cozy and magical vibes of the early movies are perfectly captured in the gorgeous indoor areas of Hogwarts Castle and Hogsmeade, and when you step outside to walk around the school grounds, visit the little towns, get lost in the Forbidden Forest, or explore the coastal areas, everything looks absolutely perfect. And every location is populated with loads of collectibles, hidden secrets, puzzles, side quests, enemies, treasure chests, giving you a lot to do. The second I was allowed to roam free, I spent at least 3 or 4 hours completely ignoring any quests, just running around the castle spamming Revelio every 5 seconds in order to reveal treasure chests, hidden rooms, collectibles. I was visiting all of the iconic rooms and landmarks from the movies and just having a blast, feeling completely immersed in this world. Unfortunately, you won't be able to see all the iconic locations from the movies, but there are enough to keep you entertained for a long while, and there were actually some places that are in the game that I didn't expect to see at all. Exploration is, without a doubt, the strongest aspect of the game, and it's guaranteed that you'll be running around for multiple hours, doing nothing in specific, but just messing around and completely ignoring the main quest, just because this world is just so freaking well made. But the world you're visiting in Hogwarts Legacy isn't the same world you see during the Harry Potter movies. At least not yet.
Before I could respond, I received this. It was the last thing she sent me, Eleazar. It came to me via her owl, but with no correspondence. I can only assume
that she had to get rid of it quickly to keep it safe.
Presumably from Ranrock.
Hogwarts Legacy is set in the late 1800s during one of the historic Goblin rebellions mentioned in the Harry Potter books. And you play as a special student being fast-tracked to the 5th year at Hogwarts because your magical abilities manifested later than usual. One day your mentor Professor Fig realizes you have a rare ability to sense ancient forms of magic, and moments after you manage to accidentally activate a mysterious artifact, a sudden dragon attack causes you and your teacher to teleport to a mysterious coastal ruin where the story of Hogwarts Legacy begins. I'm not going to go into detail to avoid as many spoilers as possible, but the whole thing is a very standard Harry Potter mystery. Something bad happened long ago and now it's happening again, and you're the special student that has the power to stop the bad thing from happening again. But first, you need to go through a good old hero's journey. Initially, the story is intriguing enough, but as the game develops, I feel like there's a lot of downtime between all the meaningful moments, and the main plot ends up losing a lot of steam. By the end of the game, I found the main story to be it's okay. but I definitely enjoyed some of the side stories a lot more. Partially, I think the reason why Hogwarts Legacy fails a bit in storytelling is because the supporting characters aren't very well developed. Some of the Hogwarts teachers are funny and likable, Professor Fig is a decent mentor-type character, some of your colleagues are somewhat endearing, but most of your fellow students are copy-pasted soulless puppets that only have one defining characteristic, such as likes animals or is smart. It's very hit and miss. However, the dialogues are 100% on point. The writing is pretty good and sounds very period accurate. And I think the developers knew that the writing was good cause some characters just won't shut up for several minutes straight with pointless exposition and small talk.
Pardon me, sir.
Oh, thank goodness. When I heard the bell, I thought you were Miss Lawang. Not that she deigns to come here. Though I don't believe I've seen your face here before, either.
Let's get you those recipes, shall we?
I can absolutely tell you for sure, whenever I wasn't recording, I was speed reading the subtitles and skipping all the voice lines, because characters just talk a bit too much in this game. Basically, the story and characters are a mixed bag. Some stuff is very good, most of it is very forgettable, and you're just gonna be wishing for NPCs to shut the hell up so that you can go back to finding cool items in dark caves. The best part of the story is when you get to insert yourself into it. Although Hogwarts Legacy can't really be called an RPG, you can tailor your own experience in a couple of different ways. The initial character creation isn't all that impressive, and you will end up looking exactly like some other students in Hogwarts. However, the equipment system is great for playing wizard dress up, and that's what's going to make your character look unique. And the best thing about your gear is that there's basically an unlimited transmog system that lets you apply the appearance of any item you've ever owned to any item you currently have, which allows you to always have the items with the best stats equipped, but still keep your favorite look. This is one of my favorite features of the game, and I wish it was like this in every other game that has a gear system. It makes me a lot more excited to find new items, and you don't even need to keep the item if you want to use the skin. You can just sell any obsolete items to any vendor, and the appearance of the item will still be available. The developers knew exactly what they were doing when it came to player customization. Here's another example of that. When you go to Ollivander to get your own wand, you can customize it with different types of wood, different lengths, different levels of flexibility, and of course, different types of wand core. And guess what? It affects absolutely nothing. The grips you can collect to attach to your wand, they don't do anything. But did I enjoy collecting grips and customizing my wand? Yes! 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 And I don't care that it doesn't do anything, I'm just chilling in my Harry Potter theme park. You can also have different types of brooms that supposedly handle differently. I can't notice anything different between the brooms, but I'm still looking to collect all of them. And finally, the Room of Requirement is another place where you can exercise your creativity in the world of Hogwarts Legacy. The room that famously adapts to the occupant's greatest needs turns into a personal workspace where you can conjure all sorts of gardening tools, resource generators and crafting stations that you can use to brew potions, grow useful plants, passively generate crafting ingredients, and you also get to own a vivarium where you get to house any beasts you've managed to capture out in the world. These beasts can then be groomed, fed, bred, and harvested for more crafting materials. Everything in the Room of Requirement can be moved around, repainted, resized. You can change the style of the walls, the floor, the pillars, and you can even ask Deke the House Elf to change the lighting style of the room. Does any of this stuff serve any purpose at all? Well, actually, there are some things that should be more useful than they are. It's kind of disappointing how a lot of these systems end up feeling a bit useless. Unfortunately, crafting is all about potions, plants, and gear upgrades, all of which are used to make combat easier, As you might imagine, the problem is combat is already pretty easy in general, and you'll rarely feel the need to start popping potions or pulling out mandrakes in the middle of a fight. Gear upgrades also don't feel all that impactful and will already come pre-installed in many pieces of gear. Also, potions and plants and other ingredients can be bought from most vendors in town in the game, and money is never really an issue in Hogwarts Legacy, so crafting is just, it feels like extra work that isn't really necessary most of the time. And this could have been easily solved by just making combat a little bit more difficult or limiting the types of items that merchants can buy or sell. Unfortunately, these systems don't fit together very well, and they just start collapsing on top of each other. But still, gardening, crafting, and beast grooming can be very entertaining if you're just trying to roleplay or if you just enjoy the interaction, and I do appreciate that these mechanics exist, if only so that you can have a more complete Harry Potter experience. Overall, I am extremely satisfied with how much stuff you can actually customize, create, and interact with in Hogwarts Legacy. Even the less developed systems are good for adding some variety and some extra Harry Potter vibes to the game, and I had a lot of fun dressing up my character, setting up my gardening equipment, and taking care of my pets. But now that all the Puffskeins have been fed, groomed, and tucked in for the night, it's time to talk about something a little bit more dangerous. Something that works surprisingly well in Hogwarts Legacy is the combat. Waving magical wands around and shooting people with spells generally doesn't work very well in video games. Just look at the old Harry Potter games on the 7th generation consoles.
Stupefy! 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 Stupefy!
It looks like you're playing Gears of War with Super Soakers. Let's just say that a wooden stick isn't exactly a Mark II Lancer, but Avalanche Software actually pulled it off. Combat in Hogwarts Legacy, much like the rest of the game, feels just like how it looks in the movies. Most spells feel satisfyingly punchy and dangerous due to good combinations of sound cues and visual effects. Enemies will be sent flying by explosions that will be set on fire, cursed, levitated, smashed into the ground, and it's all very entertaining to watch. It's a simple system where the red spells break the red shields, purple spells, purple shields, etc, and then you time your blocks Arkham style and dodge heavy attacks a la Dark Souls. In the beginning of the game, you are stuck with a limited toolbox of combat spells, and things feel very basic, but later on you'll be able to levitate enemies, transform them into exploding barrels, throw them at each other, and a lot more other stuff like that, and of course you can learn the unforgivable curses if you wish. Combat is ultimately a fun exercise of timing, coordination, and combining multiple spells in order to keep your enemies stunned and deal devastating blows. The only real problem I have with the combat, aside from it being a bit too easy most of the time, is how you can only access 5 spells at a time and have to switch to other spell sets using the mouse wheel or some other key binding. At some point you'll have a bunch of different spells you want to combine, but they won't all fit in the same set, and switching between sets is kind of weird and clunky. This isn't a massive limitation, but it does make you feel kind of handicapped at times. But overall, combat is pretty good in Hogwarts Legacy. The enemy variety could be a bit better, the difficulty could be a bit less foolproof, but in general, I was positively surprised. Avalanche Software did a good job. There are a couple of other minor issues I have with Hogwarts Legacy. For example, if you cast Revelio while flying, the spell reveals everything in a massive radius, and it's super useful for clearing out challenges and collectibles during the late game, but it does make exploration a bit redundant since you no longer have to actually walk up to places in order to really see what's going on. The game also does have quite a few visual glitches, like the infamous light leak that will blind you as you're exploring dark caves. And another thing that baffles me is Schrodinger's physics system. It's almost like you can't tell if the game actually simulates physics or if it's all scripted. There are a lot of supposedly physics-based puzzles, but as you're about to drop the ball in the hole or place the thing in the other thing, a scripted animation kicks in and it looks very artificial. Like they knew their physics were slightly broken, so they hide a lot of stuff with animations. And still, a lot of physics puzzles will just break right in front of your eyes and then you have to come back later or reload the area in order to reset the puzzle. Another thing that everybody talks about, but it's more of a wishlist item than a complaint, is how the world doesn't really react to you in a way that is realistic, or in a way that you would find interesting. You can't be in the Great Hall casting Bombarda at all the students having lunch and nobody cares. There's also another thing I noticed pretty early on, and it's how there are a couple of quests where it's nighttime and you have to sneak around the school while evading the prefects because you are breaking curfew, but outside of these quests, there are no prefects roaming the halls at night, which would be a really interesting feature and a way to make the world feel more real and immersive. Unfortunately, Hogwarts Legacy is not trying to go for that school simulation kind of thing, but it is totally understandable. That's a whole other type of game that would be a whole lot harder to make, but players can dream, maybe in the sequel. So, yes, the game holds your hand like you're a child for the whole duration of the game. Yes, some systems become irrelevant because the game is a bit too easy. Yes, the fact that Hogwarts Legacy does not have Quidditch is a human rights violation. But in the grand scheme of things, these flaws, bugs, and design issues are very easy to forgive considering how good the overall product is. Hogwarts Legacy is an amazing game. What Avalanche Software set out to do with the Harry Potter IP was extremely ambitious, in some ways a bit too ambitious. There's a lot still to improve. There are a lot of problems with the game that might turn some people off, especially if they're not fans of the source material. I wish the game was a bit deeper and more complex in some areas, and that it wasn't so baby-proof and slow in some moments. The story and characters could definitely be better. Adding some school simulation elements could elevate the experience to a whole new level. But while some individual parts of Hogwarts Legacy stumble a bit, the complete package is a magical adventure that sets you loose on a beautifully handcrafted open world that makes you feel like you've been teleported right into the Harry Potter movies. There's a lot to see and do, and while the gameplay of Hogwarts Legacy won't pose a challenge to the more hardcore players, the goal of the game isn't to challenge you. Hogwarts Legacy is about adventure, exploration, visiting beautiful locations, running through the countryside at night, grooming a puffskein, and creating your own custom wand, even if it doesn't do anything. I was going to rate this game like a 7 out of 10, considering all the little issues I found and complaints I had and some frustrating moments, but that number wouldn't do justice to how good this game is. It wouldn't do justice to how much artistic skill and attention to detail have been put into this game. Hogwarts Legacy gets an 8 out of 10. With some small changes, it could have easily achieved a 9 or even a 10 out of 10. But we'll leave that for the sequel. Okay, I know that there are a couple things about Hogwarts Legacy that I didn't touch on, like for example, playing as all the different houses and playing with mods. It's great that the game has this native support for mods and you can install multiple mods with just a few clicks from right inside the game itself, but the game warns you that installing mods may affect the vanilla experience and it will break achievements. So considering that I do want to get all the Steam achievements for this game, it's something I do. I didn't mess with mods, maybe for a different video. Regarding the different houses, I hear you can experience different side quests depending on which house you're playing, and I will have to play other houses in order to get all the achievements, but the game is already extremely long. This video took so long to make, and I didn't want to take any longer and it wouldn't change the review all that much.
Tactical nuke incoming!
Another thing that definitely doesn't change the review at all was all the stupid political stuff surrounding J.K. Rowling and the boycotts. Guys, let me tell you, the people that decided that Hogwarts Legacy should be boycotted because J.K. Rowling doesn't believe in trans women or whatever, these people are the biggest idiots on the face of the planet, because Hogwarts Legacy is literally one of the most progressive games I have ever played, and it's possibly the most liberal and progressive Harry Potter product I've ever seen. And some people think that Fantastic Beasts is weird because Dumbledore is gay or something. You've seen nothing. Hogwarts Legacy, you haven't seen anything. Despite being set in the 1800s, half the characters in the game are minorities and people of color. There are multiple characters that are openly gay or queer. There's at least one lesbian couple, and the owner of the 3 broomsticks is a trans woman who is also voiced by a trans woman. So, like, yeah, congratulations guys, you boycotted a game that was everything you've ever wanted just because the original IP was created in the 90s by a woman you don't politically agree with. And that's all for now. Like, share, and subscribe for more gaming content. This video was a big commitment, and it showed me that I really have to improve my workflow if I want to be able to cover these longer games without turning the channel into a wasteland for 2 months. I am definitely going to be covering more shorter games after this one. Tell me in the comments, what is the most memorable open world game you've ever played? Maybe I'll check it out next. Meanwhile, you can watch this other long-form review I made about the zombie RPG that challenged Skyrim. But for now, I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.